Medical Group, located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray, Pennsylvania. For more information or to make an appointment, call 724-942-3002. That's 724-942-3002 for Dennis J. Courtney, MD.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to AM Impact on Your Health. AM Impact on Your Health for every day our goal, to have you learn at least one thing to help you live better and longer. AM Impact on Your Health, well, it's heard each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9 o'clock. I'm Dr. Dennis Courtney, and I'm with you each and every one of those Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 8 to 9. AM Impact on Your Health, where each day you'll find current medical news, knowledgeable guests, fascinating health topics, and where we do encourage you to call in to join in. Today, well, it is a Friday version of our show, and as usual, and in keeping with our tradition here, it is a get 'em up out of town version of the show. Whether you're staying in town or moving out of town, you got a couple of days off. We want you to enjoy yourself, kick back, take the weather, listen to Bill. The weather's going to cooperate very nicely with you. And to send us on out of here, we're going to let you set the agenda today. Anything on your mind is okay with me. We can review a number of the things that we've discussed just the other day, for instance, with Doug Ingoldsby. I thought we had a pretty good show. Got really carried away with vitamin D. I'm going to mention that another time here this morning. I think within context of a new vitamin, which I think is going to sweep the nation and take everybody by firestorm. But any topic is okay with me. Now, to do that, as you well know, you need to dial a number. This number stays the same. It's been the same for quite some time. You probably already have it jotted down, or you know it by memory. That number is 412-825-6262. That's 412-825-6262. I'll listen for your knock on the door, and I will let you in the store as soon as I hear you knocking. Please give us a call anytime you want, and anything on your mind is okay with me. Now, looking at, I mentioned again Doug Ingoldsby coming the other day. I thought he was a very good and appropriate guest. Really, the crux of his message was with respect to kids, the nutrition of our children really is lacking in a number of areas, and starting off their day with the cereals that more than likely came to their attention by the TV shows out there, cartoon shows in particular. This is how every family knows the saga of pushing that cart down through the aisle where the cereals are found. There is an immense aisle, and you as a parent, you haven't heard of any of the cereal, but your child will walk up to you and throw a box in the cart, and you'll think, well, what the heck, he ought to know what he wants. Meanwhile, how did he select it? This is what the FTC is fixing to change, and in particular, what other nutrients these children need. I thought it was telling. I mentioned it to him. I'm not so sure he had heard of the new battle cry, which certainly is a major yell and yelp, which is that this particular generation, our children's generation, looks as though in the entire history of time, that each generation that succeeded the previous one always lived longer. And of course, with our technology and everything available to us, one would expect that this younger generation, with all that's out there and possible and going to become possible, that they would be expecting to have life expectancies much longer. But the truth of the matter is, because of these metabolic disorders, in particular diabetes and obesity, it looks as though, and there have been plenty of noted authorities that have mentioned it, this is the first time in the history of time where it looks as though our children's generation is going to live less in terms of years than more. And that's a tragic consequence of the nutrition that went downhill during our generation, my generation, where the fast food industry sort of took over. According to Doug Ingoldsby, all three meals. And that's been the big change, and we've got to get that turned around. Anyway, Thanks to Doug Inglesby for spending some time with us the other day. We'll bring him back in the near future. Up-and-coming calendar events, well, let's just say we do turn the page today on the month, well, we turn tomorrow, but, we're here today. So today's the 30th. Tomorrow we turn into the 31st, and by the time Sunday rolls around, we're at August 1st. So as we look at the month of August shaping up, as we all know, on the 2nd of August, this coming next show, Vicki Southern's going to be here talking about that topic. Is it catches the ear and catches you in the mouth, just below the mouth and the chin, really. How to slim down a stubborn double chin. Vicki Southern is going to bring us a message on how to do so. On Wednesday, I'm really looking forward to the show with Mark Underwood. We brought him here a couple of times already. He is the discoverer, the inventor of a product which he manufactures called Prevagen. You've heard us talk about Prevagen before. It is a substance made up of calcium-binding proteins found in jellyfish. Now, that's where they found the stuff. Turns out, however, that these calcium-binding proteins prevent damage from occurring at the cell membrane level, preventing cell death, which she states is a major underlying cause of memory loss and Alzheimer's disease. We have plenty of folks who have taken us up on our offer. We carry that product here. But now a new topic comes up, which I think heretofore wouldn't be such a great topic. And that is, I've always said, if there was a blood test that could determine whether or not you had Alzheimer's, would you really be up for getting a blood test? I mean, if you were in your 30s and you could take a blood test that could foretell your future and let you know without a doubt that you got some serious memory issues coming up, and you more than likely can consider that by the time you're 50 and 60, you're going to be in the Alzheimer's category. I don't see people jumping in their cars to run to get that test. I think it would be I think people would say, well, that's just well enough alone. If I get the disease, woe is me, because I think it's everybody's nightmare to think that they could be fallen by a disease such as Alzheimer's. But to know in advance that I'm going to have it, I don't think I want to know about it. Well, I think the reason why that would be an appropriate response, I think it's a similar response to what I might have, as a matter of fact, is that up to this point, there's been virtually nothing that you could use as a preventative, to reverse the disease in any way. So who in the heck wants to be tampered around with knowing that you have literally the kiss of death placed on you and not be able to do a thing about it? I think it's a difficult position to work from. That is when you knew that there wasn't a thing you could do. But we're trying to enlighten you on here in the show, in my office practice, and with people like Mark Underwood, is that you definitely need to know if this is in your future to take the steps to either delay, diminish, or reverse the process, which it now appears, at least with the multiple things that we do in the office here, coupled with the various products that are now coming to the market, it's possible to do. I give that all as a lead-in and a build-up to Mark Underwood's return on Wednesday, where we're going to be talking about this kind of blood testing. And although you might have been, and I certainly was one of what might have been shying away from any such kind of testing for fear of why would I want to know when I can't do anything about it, now should be taking the approach I feel. Look, you got to know, because you can do so much about it, and you need to know ahead of time to get that started. Anyway, Wednesday on the 4th will be Mark Underwood with us. I've still got that week between the, shows between 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th. Let me know. I haven't put them in etched in granite yet in terms of the repeat shows, but I will be on a break and opening live shows that week, so they'll be filled. I've got some ideas, like myself. I'm getting some emails from you, and I'll take some more, and you can give us a call today, in fact, if you want to repeat any of the previous shows we've done, and we've done some pretty interesting ones. I've really enjoyed them. When I return, the first show out of the box on the 23rd of August, I keep getting little tidbits, little morsels of information that make the show a little more intriguing. Another call from Jim Navarro. You who have listened to me the longest, and I mean, we go way back now into the 90s, but at the turn in the year 2000, we had a slew of shows involving this family, the Navarro family, the plight of a young boy, name of Thomas Navarro, and the saga that this family had to go through over a many-month period to try to avoid the oppressive government from compelling Thomas to receive chemotherapeutic intervention for a neurological malignancy, a brain tumor, so to speak. The child, after having a brief episode of an initial chemotherapy and feeling so sick from it, said, "I'm not taking that stuff anymore." And his family backed him up on that. But the governmental agencies, the medical community, the legal profession assaulted this family and literally skedaddled them throughout this country. Every time I spoke to Jim, he could have been in a phone booth somewhere in Kansas one time, in Connecticut the next. He moved around to avoid this oppressive government trying to mandate that his child receive a therapy that the kid didn't want and the parents didn't want for the child. Anyway, that saga is now going to be portrayed in an 87-minute documentary that's going to be hitting the screens on September. The last phone call I got was September 19th. It's going to be released. We'll know when I get back on the 23rd and Jim Navarro comes and talks to us about this, the exact date that it's going to be released. This 87-minute DVD is going to be narrated by Peter Coyote, a actor, well-known actor. I know, I've got a good visual picture in my mind of him. And the people who have pre-screened this, many of which certainly were around at that time, but they don't recall it. They've forgotten about the Thomas Navarro debacle, the Thomas Navarro saga. The debacle is, of course, this young boy lost his life back on November 19th of 2001 and succumbed to that malignancy on his own terms, I might add, and that of the family. But I think what I'm getting from Jim is that people who are seeing and previewing this DVD right now, and it's happening in certain venues and in certain theaters, are being made aware of what happened to Thomas Navarro could easily happen to any one of you, especially those of you who have children, because the fact of the matter is that as an adult, yes, you are allowed to make medical decisions with respect to your own kid. And you could easily say for yourself that you would not want to have let's say, a chemotherapy or a radiation therapy. Because as an adult, you are perfectly allowed to make that decision. Nobody can tackle you, double leg tackle you, shackle you, and carry you in to get treatment that you don't want to have. But the cold reality is that when it comes to children, even though you may be the parent of that child, you are not allowed to make that call for them. At least that is what the Navarro case is all about. Child didn't want the therapy. The family didn't want the chemotherapy either. But the medical profession said, oh, yeah, you've got to do it. The legal profession backed them up. And the running from one place to another, to avoid the oppressive, omnipresent government's intervention in that family's decision-making is what this story is all about. And I think when people, at least as Jim described it to me, are leaving the screening of this, they're walking out angry because they see the story of 2001 easily to be played out in front of, could be their own families, and certainly the children of their children, and it angers them. And we're hoping, and I know the Navarro Foundation, set up on Thomas's behalf, is hoping that that it rekindles this debate so that we can have meaningful laws changed to allow parents to make that call. Anyway, that's going to be on the 23rd. Jim Navarro will be with us, and as much time as can now pass between today and then, A whole bunch more is going to be known about this, and we'll reveal it to you. Then finally, on 25th, we've known about this for quite some time. James Roberts, good friend of mine and well known to you listeners here, is an extraordinary cardiologist from a neighboring state in Ohio, but far on the other side, Toledo, Ohio. But he has blazoned the cardiology community with a new approach to the treatment of cardiovascular disease. He's so far ahead the conventional medical community. He went and put it to print and put it down on paper in collaboration with a good friend of his, an acquaintance of mine, but I don't know him well. He is a superstar, Dr. Stephen Sinatra, and the two wrote a book entitled Reversing Heart Disease. Now, I say you should be wanting to get a copy of this to have it as your reference text, especially if you are having to communicate with your primary care physician or your own cardiologist. And you start coming up, well, I'd like you to order, I've often said, I'd like to be a fly on the wall when you walk into your cardiologist's office or your PCP and say, could you please order a lipoprotein lait? And because I'd like to know what that is. I hear listen to Dr. Courtney on the radio. Oh, you just get enragement, I think. But if you walk in with that book and flip open the page of lipoprotein lait, and the doctor knows he can order it, I think you got a shot. And this is what I think the book will really provide you, embolden you to know that this is all these things that we talk about here, that we do here. There's a scientific basis for it, and it's referenced, and it's bibliographied, and these are the things that the doctors will not be able to placate you with or say to you, hey, where did you learn about that? Where did you get such an idea? I think the book Reverse Heart Disease Now is the one you should have. We'll be talking to Jim Roberts on the 25th, and as it stands right now, that is the slate and the agenda up to this point. Look, today's your day. We said, look, it's your show. Pick it up wherever you'd like to. The number to get in on this, 412-825-6262. Be back in a moment. I'll be listening for that knock on the door. I've got some things to discuss with you in the meantime, and we'll take it from there.
This is Dennis J. Courtney, MD. You become confused about how best to manage your health. It's no wonder. It seems that every time you turn on the television or radio, another expert has yet another suggestion for you to follow that seems to be reasonable enough, but no matter how dutifully you follow the instructions, it just doesn't quite produce the results that you are looking for. If this confusion sounds familiar to you, give us a call at the Center for Complementary Health, where we'll make some sense of the confusion based on a blending of traditional and alternative medicine that we've been perfecting over the last 7 years. We offer metabolic nutrition testing, immune system repair, natural hormone replacement therapy, chelation therapy, cutting-edge allergy correction, and a host of other safe and effective alternative therapies.
Dennis J. Courtney, MD, is located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray. Phone 724-942-3002.
Have you been to the doctor lately? Was fatigue top of your complaint list? Even if your doctor asks you what you eat, the recommended 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day is a dream in your busy schedule. What if you learned of a product 5 years in the formulation that delivers 5 servings of fruits and minerals in just 1 ounce? That's right, it's Through the Spirit. The blessings of Through the Spirit are now formulated into a delicious whole fruit puree product rich in antioxidants and minerals. Your health is more than just a test result. It's a balance of physical, spiritual, and emotional factors. You work regularly to strengthen your faith. Let Through the Spirit help cover your nutritional needs in a convenient and cost-effective ounce a day. Call 1-800-442-3793 for a special promotional offer. Through the Spirit, a blessing for your good health. Through the Spirit, 5 servings of fruits and minerals with no added sugars. That's 1-800-442-3793 for your good health. Call them now, 1-800-442-3793.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back once again to AM Impact on Your Health. here in this Friday morning version of this Get 'em Up Out of Town version show that we call AM Impact on Your Health. We're pleased to be with you today, as we are each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9. Friday holds a special day in mind for me. I always look to, if I'm going to back off on a guest, I'll make it Friday. I always have made it your show, or tried to do so, on Fridays. You can take over this show by giving us a call and expressing what's on your mind. That can come in the form of a question, form of a comment. Anything is okay with me. The number to do that, 412-825-6262. That's 412-825-6262. And I'll be waiting for that knock on the door. Now, a word about what's going to get hot. Here's what I mean by it. I'd have to say, and you probably have to agree with me, that the year 2010, the hottest vitamin, the hottest nutrient of this year, and not up yet, but it's really playing itself out. You find it written about everywhere. You hear about it everywhere. And, of course, that's vitamin D. Vitamin D has come into its own in the year 2010. And it should remain pretty high on the hit parade for quite some time, especially, a couple of factors have just absolutely made it and compelled it to be so. One is, and it came out in our discussion with Doug Inglesby the other day, that when you plot out the incidence of diseases, and I mean all diseases, and you plot out the incidence of those diseases moving from the equator north or south, doesn't matter, and the further away you get from the equator, you're finding that the incidence of those diseases rises in proportion to the distance you are from the equator. Now, a little bit of scientific fact is what led scientists to make an assumption. You know what? This may have something to do with our sunshine vitamin, and that vitamin is vitamin D, because you get vitamin D through direct sunlight exposure. Vitamin D really isn't a vitamin. Vitamin D is actually a hormone. Your body makes the stuff. And the definition of a hormone is a substance made by the body in one place and used someplace else. It became really interesting when the next scientific fact was we found out that vitamin D receptors are found everywhere in the body. Not just, strong bones, healthy teeth, and the like. Every single piece of tissue in the human body has a vitamin D receptor. And the third scientific fact was that the ability to make the final, there's 5 steps that it takes calciferol, which is found in the skin. When sunlight hits it, it turns it into cholecalciferol. There are 3 more steps before you ultimately get to the final form of the vitamin, the active form of the vitamin. It's got a big scientific name called 1,25-dihydroxy cholecalciferol. Now, that is a mouthful, but it's 1,25-D3 would be the best. OHD3 is the best way to say it. And it was taught to me in medical school that that final little step was only performed in one place in the body, and that was the kidney. Well, the new scientific information shows that there may be receptors in every tissue of the body, and the ability to convert to the last and active form of the vitamin also occurs in every piece of tissue in the body. So those are what led scientists to conclude the role and importance. And in fact, when they went back after that assumption of finding and learning, that wasn't an assumption. They learned that the incidence of diseases increased the further away you got from the equator, moving north or south. When they gave vitamin D to these participants, all of the numbers of people suffering from diseases in those categories improved dramatically when the vitamin D level was compensated for. So this is why the science finally blew out the fear. The fear was ingrained in the medical community. The vitamin D was implicated as a potential problem because it's a fat-soluble vitamin. You know, there's 4 fat-soluble vitamins: vitamin A, D, E, and K. And because vitamin A is easily toxic in the human body, it really has to be careful when administering vitamin A. because it's easy to get toxic levels of it. And by virtue of the fact that vitamin D was the next one in line, A, D, E, and K, it was just automatically paired up with vitamin A as a problem. And that's why, as I mentioned to Doug Inglesby, and he agreed with me, that you usually only find about 400 units to be the amount of vitamin D that is dispensed in any multiple vitamin. And then brave people like Doug Inglesby actually put 1,000 units in the kiddie forms. This is unheard of. This is medical blasphemy as little as 2 years or 3 years ago. But it certainly is a minuscule and paltry amount compared to what's needed to get the vitamin D levels up. The normal level, I'm going to get to this phone call in just a second, the normal level for vitamin D is 32 nanograms per milliliter. You've got to ask your doctor, there's like 5 different vitamin Ds, he just can't write vitamin D level, got to ask for vitamin D, 25-OH-D3. That's the measurable form that's best determinable of your vitamin D status, not the active form. The active form only has a life expectancy literally in minutes. So you can't measure that adequately enough, but you can measure the 25-OH-D3 level. 32 nanograms per milliliter is considered to be the normal range, but the optimal range, the range you want to get to, is well into the 80s and 90s and without any degree of toxicity to worry about. So that's the vitamin D, the hot vitamin for 2010. Before the morning's up, we're going to get into what I believe is going to be the hot vitamin for 2011, and we'll unveil it here in just a moment. Meanwhile, knock on the door. Come on in the store. Hello and welcome aboard.
Good morning, Dr. Courtney.
Hi.
Thank you for inviting conversation.
Yes.
I wanted to make a couple of comments on a number of topics, but I'll try to move swiftly here. Since we're on the vitamin D topic, I'm trying to educate myself better on this topic as well. But I do notice out there that apparently different vitamin companies that we're always at the mercy of course, are supplying the vitamin D3. Apparently it's coming from different sources, but it seems like one of the most natural ones they're extolling is the one that's taken from the lanolin that is processed from the wool of sheep. And it rather puzzles me how sheep, with such a heavy covering on their integrity.
Yeah, would have a high, because they're not getting much direct sunlight. Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
How does this? I have to look into that to find out whether they exude the lanolin and the cholecalciferols in the lanolin itself and convert to 25-hydroxy. It just makes an interesting question to me. But apparently that's supposed to be one of the best sources of D3.
Great. It's coming from you. I'll take it as gospel, because I really have not heard that'd be the best source. So, hey, I'm going to take that. Well, I should take that. Look, when you find vitamin D advertised, because you look like you've been studying it, do they state the source they get it from? Do they do that?
There is. You can get source information from some companies. I think Quantum is one that. I don't know what is exactly on the label, but it's very easy to obtain the information from the company. But almost everyone else just prints it as vitamin D3. That's you don't know the source.
Right. That's what I was afraid of.
Yeah.
All right. Well, look,
I'm afraid of too. But you can have irradiated sources of cholecalciferol. But then I would get into the question of you get all kinds of isomers when you irradiate, unless you just have one pure base substance. But I still think irradiation always causes isomers, which may be a good thing and may not be a good thing.
Hey, we'll have to get to the bottom of how irradiation. I don't look at the radiation as being a positive health idea with anything. So,
well, you can use any kind of actinic radiation in chemistry to convert one isomer into another, and apparently it's a very accepted way of producing certain sophisticated compounds out there. They may or may not undergo a separation process, after you do a bulk irradiation of a substrate. it may or may not go through a separation process in which you can distinguish between the different compounds. I may be boring your listeners on this.
Oh, but you're talking pretty. That's really good. That's really good pretty talk.
Well, it's a bottomless pit. I find the more you ask questions, the more it gets more and more complicated. Life is not biochemical life on this planet.
Hey, but listeners of this show appreciate your input a lot. I've come to really respect it. You've tipped me off to a number of things, and lo and behold...
I still want to find out if you shouldn't bathe within 24 to 48 hours after being irradiated yourself. Remember I brought that situation up some time ago, and I've yet to have that resolved yet, too. When you go to the beach, we all, after you come out, especially when you're at the ocean, you want to shower afterwards and whatnot. You may be actually washing away, especially if you're using a soap, which is designed to remove oils from your skin, whether or not you're substantially reducing the amount of T3 that you already manufactured. Interesting question. There's probably not so much to worry about, but it is an interesting scientific question. But before I get off, you also mentioned earlier about the genetics and about having a test, which I would be... I have mixed emotions.
Yeah, don't you have mixed emotions about it?
Oh, yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Because there's, you have a genotype and then you have a phenotype. So just because you test for a gene doesn't mean it's going to be expressed.
Well, is that the test that... I don't know the kind of test that we're going to be looking at when he comes talking about Mark Underwood, whether it's... and I understand genotype and phenotype and heterozygous and homozygous, and I know that would be one way of testing for it. Are you sure that this is a genetic test that he's talking about?
Oh, no, I'm not. I don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
I was just talking in generality about anything, getting any genetic test done.
That's right.
Just because you have the switch in your nuclear protoplasm doesn't mean the switch is going to be turned on. You hope certain switches you want on, certain switches you want off. Like they talk about the sirtuin genes that are the longevity genes. Certainly you'd like to have them switched on, and apparently resveratrol can do that. But there's other genes you might, like an oncogene, you don't want that one switched on.
Well, let's just find out what this particular test is going to be. It's a genetic test that will all come out in the wash, because they may be able to know whether you got whether or not you have the factor, but if it's in a heterozygous state, it wouldn't be expressed. That's getting a little scientific too, but nonetheless, let's wait and find out whether this identifies a protein. I'm thinking that this test really identifies a protein in the blood, but I have no basis by which I say that. I'm anxious to be with Mark Underwood. I know you'll be listening to that show to find out what the basis of that test will be. And if it does identify a protein or some marker that is a tip-off, 5 years ago, I'd be running, I'd be getting in my Escalade and going about 80 miles an hour in the other direction. I would not want that test, because there was no hope. I think I've often talked about the television show I saw, big build-up, and it had a lot to do with Pittsburgh, because Pittsburgh has been influential in Alzheimer's disease with developing Pittsburgh factor, which is one of the tests they use, okay? And the show was the most depressing show I saw ever, because they said, oh, hey, we're going to have the show, and you don't want to miss it. We're going to be talking about Alzheimer's disease. And so they did talk about it. And they said, oh, if you have it, gee, you're in trouble. Forget it. We're here really to talk to your family who's going to be taking care of you. So if you've got the disease, there's nothing we can do for you. You poor people.
I'll tell you what you should do. Don't run out and get in your Escalade. Go to your cupboard and get out your spice kit. As Cass Ingram has told us numerous times, the cure is in the cupboard.
The cure is in the cupboard, or in the forest, which is where...
Humanoids for Alzheimer's. You know what did you ever hear about the yellow brains in India?
Yeah, tell us about it.
Oh, well, it's simply that when they did post-mortems on certain elderly people in India that never showed any mental compromise whatsoever, they found they ate so many curcuminoids that their brains had actually turned bright yellow.
Get out of here. Never heard that.
It was interesting, if nothing else.
Sure.
So apparently in India, because they consume so many curries, they attribute that, and it may not have been proven, but they attribute that to the very low incidence of Alzheimer's in that country. And you have to remember, India is a very poor, it's an impoverished country. It's coming up in the industrial world. But these people, though, rely on eating a lot of spices. And apparently they don't have a lot of the problems we have because of it. And that fits into what Cass Ingram's telling us, too.
Love Cass. When he comes out of the woods, because that's where he is right now, I got it jotted down on my calendar on, where is the date? On August 8th. He comes out of the 7th, he comes out of the woods. On the 8th, I'm supposed to call him, and we're going to set up a date for him to come back to talk about the natural cures for high blood pressure. And
yes.
we'll be doing a show on that in the near future.
Okay, well, thank you for keeping...
Always enjoy hearing from you. Thanks for the call-up. Thanks for the call.
It's quite a journey. Bye-bye.
Yeah, absolutely right. Boy, really enjoyed talking to that fellow. I hope you enjoy him too. And any contribution that you care to make along that line, no matter what it is, give us a call. It's 412-825-6262. That's 412-825-6262. Why don't we do this? Why don't we take another short break? When we come back, I'm going to talk about a bit about the hot vitamin for 2011. Let's see if you agree with me. 2010, without question, vitamin D, the big winner. What will be the hot vitamin for 2011? I'll share with you in a moment, and I think it'll be.
Want to help your family eat healthier? Instead of learning to disguise tofu in wondrous ways, how about some real nutritional power? If your family has the typical American palate for fries, pizza, and burgers, giving your family the blessing of good nutrition is a struggle. Fruit of the Spirit is the answer for your family's nutritional needs. Fruit of the Spirit is an all-natural whole fruit puree made from fresh fruits native to the Holy Land with alkalizing minerals. Fruit of the Spirit was 5 years in the formulation, the work of a team of top nutritional experts with independent science to confirm its antioxidant power. 1 ounce a day provides the equivalent of 5 servings of fruits and minerals. Fruit of the Spirit is convenient, affordable, and delicious. Even your picky family will sing the praises of Fruit of the Spirit. Give your loved ones the blessing of good nutrition. Call 1-800-442-3793 for a special promotional offer. Fruit of the Spirit, a blessing for your good health. That's 1-800-442-3793. Call them now, 1-800-442-3793.
This is Dennis J. Courtney, MD. You become confused about how best to manage your health. It's no wonder. It seems that every time you turn on the television or radio, another expert has yet another suggestion for you to follow that seems to be reasonable enough, but no matter how dutifully you follow the instructions, it just doesn't quite produce the results that you were looking for. If this confusion sounds familiar to you, give us a call at the Center for Complementary Health, where we'll make some sense of the confusion based on a blending of traditional and alternative medicine that we've been perfecting over the last 7 years. We offer metabolic nutrition testing, immune system repair, natural hormone replacement therapy, chelation therapy, cutting-edge allergy correction, and a host of other safe and effective alternative therapies.
Dennis J. Courtney, MD, is located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray. Phone 724-942-3002.
Good morning and welcome back once again to AM Impact on Your Health. Heard here on KHB 620 each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9 o'clock. I'm Dr. Dennis Courtney with you on this Friday version of the show. It's a get 'em up out of town version whenever I can, and which is frequently. I always like to reserve Fridays for your day, allowing you the opportunity to call up and really talk about anything on your mind at all, whatever it happens to be. The number to do that is 412-825-6262. Something you might have heard here on the show or elsewhere, something that's bugging you, some fact that you just be dying to share with us. We'd all like to hear it. That number, 412-825-6262. I'm waiting to hear a knock on the door. When I hear it, I'll let you on in the store and we'll find out what you got on your mind. Now, I told you that vitamin D had its play in 2010. I've learned an awful lot about vitamin D, just from something else a moment ago, about getting it the best source from lanolin, found in the skin of sheep. That was interesting. Didn't know that one. And this is the way it's going to go, I think, in 2011. I think that there's another vitamin on the horizon. It caught my attention when I first heard about it. I'm going to say I first heard about it about 3 years ago. And I first heard about it about 3 years ago from the very fella who's going to be coming on our show on the 25th. But the first time I ever heard about this vitamin came out of the lips of one James Roberts, MD, cardiologist. And he actually writes about it in his book, Reversing Heart Disease Now. But it was such a strange thing to hear it mentioned. I didn't quite appreciate it other than it was the first time I'd heard about it. And I've sort of put it on the back burner. But I keep seeing more and more about it. And I believe that we're going to be finding in 2011 that the prominence of this vitamin that heretofore hasn't been getting, it was like vitamin D. Vitamin D didn't, in the Rodney Dangerfield mode, didn't get any respect. And boy, it's getting a lot of respect now. And I believe vitamin K is going to be the hot vitamin of 2011 and get some respect in that year because of the vital role that it plays in a number of body functions and the level of sophistication that you now have about vitamin D that you didn't have in 2009. Now, it all happened in 2010. I think a similar thing is going to occur with the vitamin Ks. There are 3 of them, K1, K2, K3. Just consider this your primer, your primer on vitamin K. Vitamin K1 is phyloquinone. Remember, vitamin K2 is menaquinone. And vitamin K3 is a synthetic variant called menadione. And that's the one you should be trying to avoid. Now, I only mention these as a primer because I'm going to let Dr. James Roberts dazzle us with his acumen on this subject. We talk about this on the 25th. It was a fact that I saw on the Mercola site, actually. The mention of vitamin K is going to be an up-and-coming fashionable vitamin. And I think there's no finer guy to talk about it than the guy that first mentioned it to me, mentioned to us, really. It came right over the airways. It was here on our show. But as so often happens, it was just glossed over. Well, vitamin K is going to hit the big time, I believe, especially this K2. The menaquinone is going to be the featured vitamin in the year 2011, and you're going to be hearing a lot about it here as well as every place else. I think that is so. Hey, we had a knock on the door? Come on in the store. Hello and welcome aboard. Hi there.
Dr. Courtney, I'm looking forward to Jimmy Roberts coming back on.
Hey, yes, so am I.
And I wondered, you talked a lot about the vitamin C that's non-corn derived and the active vitamin C. I'm assuming that one of the brands is standard processed, and I wonder if you're willing to share a couple of the other brands that might be more activated.
You know what? I don't necessarily. I'm not of the mindset that Standard Process, which is an excellent company, don't misunderstand me. But I'm not so sure, unless you can tell me by reading the label that they have a non-corn derived vitamin C. Do you know that for a fact?
No, I can't.
Okay, so I'm aware of the company, and I use so many of their products here. But when it comes to vitamin C, I'll share with you a couple of companies that I do know make a non-corn derived form. One is called Ecological Formulas, okay? And that's a company that has been using, I believe they're using cassava root, which hasn't been genetically tampered with yet. And they prominently display that it's a non-corn derived product. And I know the owner of the company, and that's the kind of vitamin C he's been putting out for years. I'm talking about 10 or 15 years now. So Ecological Formulas is one. Another company is PERQ, P-E-R-Q-U-E. Have you ever heard of PERQ?
Nope.
PERQ is a company that was formed by a gentleman named Russ Jaffe. One of the most brilliant physicians I know, very science-oriented, down in the Baltimore area. He put a company that makes a number of supplements, called it PERQ, and he too has a non-corn derived form of vitamin C. Okay? The other interesting thing about that is the product that I carry here is made by Sir Arnold Takimoto. The product is called Ultra Absorbing C. It is non-corn derived, originally derived from beets, I believe now from cassava root and potato. It was Faye Tolegasi who told us that beets are now starting to be genetically modified. So that source, which was once virgin and not touched, is now tainted. And so the derivation of the vitamin C coming from cassava root is to maintain its purity. The one thing about the vitamin C that we carry, and that is non-corn derived, is that it has this second component, which I'm sure that you've heard me talk about, which is that it is fat soluble, meaning that every bit of what you consume is assimilated, and that makes this product a little different. But all three of those companies, and there may be a fourth, somebody please tell me if they know, and we're all ears, make at least a product that is a biologically active form of vitamin C. I just say that the Takimoto product, the Ultra Absorbing C, has another unique feature in that it is it's fat soluble, whereas vitamin C, as a rule, is a water soluble drug, very poorly absorbed, and that's why you have something called bowel tolerance that you have to put up with these other forms of vitamin C. If you try to take any appreciable amounts of vitamin C, usually once you start hitting about 3,000 or 4,000 milligrams a day, the stool at that point becomes, at a minimum, loose stool. And in other cases, the frank diarrhea can begin. Any levels of 10,000 milligrams a day or higher, absolutely you're on the borderline of a diarrhea caused by osmotic overload in the colon, because so much of that vitamin isn't absorbed, it lays around the colon, it collects water, and it is expelled. That's right. That's just the process. So I hope if there are other forms, and you know what, I don't want to say that standard process doesn't have it, but I'm going to look, and I'll let you know, and I'll report back to you on that.
The other quick question I have, and it may be something that you and Jimmy Roberts talk about off the air and then report to us sometime, is I thought I read in his book that they weren't so happy with the vitamin E with tocotrienols connected with them, and I've just read for a long time that tocotrienols are very helpful.
Yeah,
it was a little confusing to me, and I wouldn't want you to take up time on the air about that, but
look, I don't believe, and I'm going to check it, and we'll even mention with Jimmy if there's an issue with tocotrienols. Absolutely. The biggest thing in vitamin E that came to be known was that the old form, I'll call it the old form, D-alpha tocopherol, D-alpha tocopherol, which was believed to be like it was like the form of vitamin E you should take, we now know is not the form of vitamin D that has the benefit to it, the biological benefit to it. It is the gamma contribution as well as the tocotrienols. And so you got to be looking for that blend when you grab vitamin D off the rack in the vitamin store and you see D-alpha tocopherol. Boy, that's old technology.
Right.
You've got to be finding the ones that have the gamma. It can have D. It can have D-alpha. It can. But it better have the gamma component, and it better have the tocotrienol component. I'm not aware of this controversy. If you think that Jimmy had made it in his book, I'm going to go check the book. It sits on my desk. And we'll certainly be able to ask him about it when he comes here. I'm going to jot it right down in a little square in my calendar book to bring it up when he is with us on the 25th. I'm glad that you follow James Roberts. I follow him too.
Thanks, Dr. Courtney.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Okay. There you have it. Another one is weighed in with some you can tell he's a steady listener here. He's got the books. You should get the book. The book is called Reverse Heart Disease Now. Jim Roberts, the co-author of it, will be with us on the 25th. So we now have some nitty-gritty stuff to ask him. Hey, I hear another knock on the door. Come on the store. Hello and welcome aboard.
Dr. Courtney?
Oh, yes.
Oh, good morning.
Hi.
Thank you. Thank you for calling Friday. This is just great.
I enjoy it.
Late for work, but that's fine. but I have, since we're talking about, blood work and things like that, I had got my blood work back, and my RBC was high, the HGB was high, and the HCT. Now, in there, is that like hydration? There's a couple of...
Well, tell you what, for the listening public doesn't know what that is, the RBC is a red blood cell count, okay, so you say it was elevated.
Yes.
The HDB was hemoglobin, and the HCT was hematocrit. And these three components go together usually in trying to monitor somebody, and the word we're looking for is that's the best predictor of whether somebody is anemic or not. Now, in your case, they're not concerned about anemia with you. They're telling you that the levels are too high, or maybe they're not telling you. Maybe you're just reading your own lab work in that way.
No, it said high.
Okay. Oh, yeah, it does say high because the computer, all it knows is numbers. So, yeah, it's going to say that it's high without a certain range, but it is true that when it comes to hemoglobin and hematocrit, these could be relatively high, meaning if you are dehydrated, which I think you were trying to suggest a moment ago, you can give the impression by reading that lab work that was taken on that day, and by the fact that you were hydrated, you actually could have a picture of someone who has a red blood cell issue where you're making too much of the stuff, and would be something that you would want to check out medically, but it could be corrected within the next day, certainly the next lab work. And if you're saying to me that you've had blood work many times in the past, and this has never been an issue, and I'll ask you now, has it ever been an issue before? Pardon me?
No,
okay.
It hasn't.
Well, I'll tell you, the kind of disorders that would lead to elevation in hemoglobin and hematocrit aren't usually ones that just come up all of a sudden. And for someone who gets frequent blood work done, to find one set of blood work where these levels can come back high. And by the way, high, I don't look at just stepping over the line as high, so I haven't asked you what the levels are.
They are just on the line.
Yeah.
Like
you're one of those, huh?
Yeah, 5 points.
I got a ton of you folks just like you who come to see me, and look, I love them because they read these labs as if they're a novel, okay? They're a Hitchcock novel, and they're always looking out for a sinister explanation to what might be something that you shouldn't even pay attention to because it's just over the line. So on that day, I'm just going to say, with listening to you, that more than likely you were dehydrated that day, and to be just over the line. When you have numbers just over the line, and especially in someone who has frequently gotten blood drawn,
the years,
then you have to dismiss that, but not you. Oh no, not you. You're always looking. Look at this hemoglobin. You lose sleep over it.
I have.
No, you can't. I'm so glad you called. And for those of you out there, some of you are my patients, and you do the same thing, and you know who you are. Don't lose over-the-line labs in a previously normal status that you get your blood work in. You got to ignore it. And now look, there'll be another blood test coming up behind it. Nothing earth-shatteringly will happen to you if, in fact, it is pointing to a problem. But I'm going to make a bet. And I'm going to make you promise to call me, too.
I definitely
When the next set of blood work comes in, just make sure you're hydrated that day. And you're going to feel so. And for you, you're going to get that blood work done tomorrow.
Yeah, better. But they do it the first thing in the morning, and I think that that's the worst time to have
Well, certainly you would be allowed to drink any amount of water that you wanted to in the morning. They just don't want you to have foods.
Yeah.
So, but be that as it may, I hope we're going to let you rest easier this weekend.
Right. And I did have a comment on the doctors and when you go in and ask for tests. But
what did you ask for?
MPV was high.
What did you ask for?
Oxygen, right?
What did you ask for?
MPV.
MPV. Okay. All right.
Just breathe more.
Okay. And so you asked for them to measure that test?
Well, the MPV is at the bottom of the the
CBC.
blood. Yeah. It just said high. It was 11, and mine was 13. But I don't know if I should be concerned about oxygen, or should I come down and get some oxygen pumped in?
Now, I think you should not panic on this set of blood work.
Okay.
Wait for the next set of blood work. Come in to see me. We'll talk about it. But I'm going to ask you one further question. You said you know about being involved with a doctor where you asked to have certain blood tests.
Yes.
Which one did you ask them to
I
take?
went in for I went in with a piece of paper, just like you say, go in and. Okay, but I used Dr. Roberts, but he said, he took the paper off of me and he said, who are you talking to? Where are you getting?
I love
He's
this.
so indignant. And I said, have you ever heard of Dr. Roberts and Dr. Sinatra? And he said, yes. And you know, Dr. Courtney, when I went in the next time, he said, is there any other tests you want?
Oh, you tamed him down. You tamed the lion.
I had to tell you that.
Oh, thank you so much.
I
Well,
think you'd enjoy it.
I do enjoy it. I'm smiling. I say to you, thank you. Hey, you doggone well better make your doctors come up to the grade, and you did. You took in that book, and did you take in the book, or you just mentioned their name?
Because you know what, Dr. Courtney? They know about them.
Oh, they know every one of them.
Their name. He said yes. And
now, they're going to have trouble with their insurers if they start ordering tests for which, when they get the results back, they have nothing to do. They won't be able to change them. And
I had a doctor tell me that if I get the information, what do we do with it?
Yeah, what do we do?
Actually did have that done, and that was a gynecologist.
Oh, well,
but that's another story. I'll call in later.
Oh,
okay?
Please do.
Thank
you so much for the call. You made my weekend already. Okay. Very much at the crescendo moment. I hear those bongos in the background, don't you? Hey, it's been fun today. Really enjoyed being with you. We do turn that page this weekend on the month of July. Be ready here on Monday talking about, do you have a double chin? What are you going to do about it? Well, there's something to do about it. A lady will be here to talk about it on Monday. We'll be back then. Until then, this is Dr. Dennis Courtney saying so long for AM Impact on Your Health.
AM Impact on Your Health is sponsored by Dennis J. Courtney, M.D., Director of the Courtney Medical Group, located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray, Pennsylvania. For more information or to make an appointment, call 724-942-3002. That's 724-942-3002 for Dennis J. Courtney, M.D.
KHB reminds you, children are naturally curious, so follow their lead. When you talk to your child, you build vocabulary. Learning starts before school does. For more tips, go to bornlearning.org.
Omega-3s are among the most important nutrients for longevity and healthy aging. Many of the common symptoms of aging arise from a loss in cell function. In order to function properly, cell membranes need to be fluid and flexible. And in order to be